And there's a plane ruining my video already. Talk about perfect timing, eh? Talk about perfect timing. No, I don't mean that you should start talking about perfect timing. That's not what that means, okay? Talk about. Have you ever heard someone say that? It doesn't have anything to do with talk about, okay? Like if you've ever taken an English exam before, maybe the instructions will say, talk about your favorite childhood memory. And then it's an exam and you have to think, well, back when I was 5 years old, and then you tell your story, right? That's not what this means. Okay, I said talk about perfect timing. Okay, or I could have said talk about bad timing, eh? So what does that mean? Talk about. I'm not telling you should talk about it. Okay, this has a different meaning. This means that you're trying to emphasize that thing that you're going to say. So it doesn't really have any meaning of itself. Those words don't have any meaning. Those two words, talk about, they go together. Talk about I don't know, how would you describe that? Come here, dog. It's not even looking at me. Look over here, dog. All the dogs are getting in on it. Talk about a scary place to be, guys. There's a dog there. Looks like a husky over there. Two dogs over there. Talk about a dog's paradise, right? It's a nice place for dogs to live. So, okay, so talk about, those two words go together, okay? And they don't have any meaning. The purpose of using those two words is to emphasize the quality or to emphasize the state of something. Like I was looking at the plane, right? And I was thinking, that's bad timing. I just started making the video and then a plane flies over and ruins my video, okay? So I said, talk about perfect timing. Right when I press the record button on my camera, a plane flies over, right? So I'm not telling you to talk about it. That's not what this means, okay? So I could say, man, it's cold out here. Talk about chilly weather. Talk about chilly weather. Chilly means cold, right? So I'm thinking about the cold weather and I want to emphasize that. It's cold out here. Can you see my breath? So it's cold out here. So I'm saying talk about chilly weather. That it's calling me, guys. Not gonna answer it because I'm making this video for you guys. You're more important than whoever's trying to call me. So guys, I'm saying it's cold out here. So I could say that. I could say, wow, it's chilly out here. Or I could say, talk about cold. Talk about chilly weather, eh? Something like that, right? So you use both those words, talk about, and then you say whatever, your whatever's kind of noticeable or whatever's kind of, it doesn't have to be super important, like the cold weather, right? It's not important that it's cold, but it's like, in my mind, it's kind of like, wow, this is really cold. So, and then I say, talk about cold, eh? Talk about cold. Or with the perfect timing phrase, that just means something happens at the same time. Two things happen at the same time. Perfect timing, okay? So let's say you are going to meet your friend at a coffee shop, right? You go to a coffee shop, but you're leaving your house and your friend is coming from their house. And maybe you arrange to meet at the coffee shop sometime around 10 a.m., right? And what if you both pull in at the same time? That's kind of a coincidence, right? You could both exactly at the same time. You could say, oh, wow, talk about perfect timing. Hey, you get out of your car, they get out of their car. The first thing you should say is, talk about perfect timing. And they'll say, yeah, tell me about it. Right? Tell me about it means just, I agree. I agree, okay? So if you're here walking with me, I could say, man, talk about cold. And you could say, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Okay, that means I agree. What other examples could we come up with? We could say, let's say we watch a movie together. A really boring movie. After the movie's done, I could look at you and say, talk about boring. Man, talk about boring. That means I'm trying to emphasize how boring it was. It was very boring. It wasn't just a little bit boring. Man, talk about boring. Right? So this can be used for good or bad. You know, like let's say you are at a restaurant and you're eating food and it's amazing. You could say, man, talk about delicious. Talk about delicious. That means it's very delicious and you're trying to say how delicious that is. Talk about delicious. And then I could say, yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it, right? Okay, so this is a very common way to say something in English. And it has nothing to do with telling you what, you know, like usually when you start a sentence with the verb and you're saying like, let's say I say, go to the store. Go to the store. I'm telling you, go to the store, right? Or maybe a parent could tell their kids, pick up your shoes or clean your room, right? So when we start with the verb, it's like a command. You're telling someone they need to do something, right? That's why on the English exam, maybe like the IELTS exam or the CELPIP exam, one of the instructions might be, it might say, talk about, like, I don't know, talk about a time that you were afraid. Okay, talk about. So then it's telling you, you need to talk about this. And then maybe you have 1 or 2 minutes to talk and you have to speak. They're ordering you to speak, right? That's the only time in English you're ever going to see the words talk about as an order. Because in real life English, it would be very rude to say that to someone. Talk about, you know, we wouldn't use that in real life. What we would say, if I want to ask you about your favorite childhood memory, I could say, what's your favorite childhood memory? Or I could say, tell me about your favorite childhood memory. Okay, then I would say, tell me about. I wouldn't say talk about. That would be weird. Okay, so the only time you will ever hear the word talk about, those two words talk about, used as like a command, are on an exam. In real English, when you hear talk about, it will mean You know, so that you're trying to emphasize something, right? You could say, talk about bad timing. Planes ruining my video. How many planes have already flown over my head? Talk about bad timing, right? So, okay, this is pretty advanced English. Even though it's very simple, but you know, English learners never really use this way to say anything. That's why I want to introduce it to you. Try to use this. Try to use this kind of sentence. Okay, where you use the words talk about as a way to emphasize something. Talk about delicious food, eh? Now here in Canada, we use that small word a quite a bit. It doesn't really have a meaning. It just means like, right? Man, talk about delicious food, right? That's what it means. Talk about cold weather, right? Looks like a dog peed there, guys. Can you see that? Is my camera still going? Why isn't my screen? I can't operate the the back of the screen with my gloves, guys. What was I saying? Talk about cold weather. Guys, someone's coming up on the path. I'm gonna go hide down by the river. Oh no, it's too much snow, guys. Look at that. Oh, I'm gonna slide into the river. I wonder how thick that ice is. You can see there, right? It's not water anymore, it's ice. I wonder how thick that ice is. Do you think if I would go running across that, do you think I'd fall in? I think I would fall into the ice, guys, fall through the ice. But right now it's about 10 degrees, I would say. Minus 10, sorry, not plus 10. Minus 10 degrees. And obviously the freezing point is 0, right? Normally, like for water, if you want to freeze water, if you want to make ice, at 0 degrees it will freeze. Now it's minus 10 out here. So I'm sure that canal is frozen. I don't know how thick the ice is, so I better not go running across. I'm sure in the winter people go skating on here, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to see in the winter if people go skating on here. There's another plane, guys. Okay, so talk about, if you love winter, for example, you could say talk about beautiful weather out here. Talk about beautiful weather out here. Okay. Now, what other examples could we make? Whoa, talk about a nice house. Look at that, guys. Talk about a nice house. Right? The reason I said that is because I was thinking, man, that's a nice house. Right? If it's just a normal situation, if it's nothing noteworthy, we don't say that, okay? So if it's just a normal, like I don't know, look at this bridge. Talk about a nice bridge, eh? This is a nice bridge, very kind of a cool bridge. But if it's like a normal thing, like let's say those clouds, right? I wouldn't say, oh, talk about nice clouds. Those are normal clouds. There's nothing special about those clouds. But imagine if it was a really kind of a cool pattern of clouds. You could say, wow, talk about interesting clouds. Look at those interesting clouds, right? Talk about interesting. There's a plane flying that way. It's gonna turn and go to the Calgary airport over there. Talk about planes ruining my videos, eh? A lot of planes are ruining my videos these days. Okay, so you could use this for any example, anything that's kind of like noteworthy. Okay, now imagine if you have a kid, you have a child, your son or daughter, and some people come over. Let's say you, more dogs out to get me, guys. Let's say you have a child and you have guests coming over to your house, and let's say you're all eating together. You might want to, let's say your child has made some achievement, has done something good, like gotten a good grade on their exam or something. Let's say your son's name is Jimmy. You could say, Jimmy, tell them what grade you got on your final exam. And then Jimmy will say, oh, I got 98% on my final exam. Oh, wow. And then all the guests will say, wow, you did great, good job. You know, or maybe your kid won an award. You know, parents are always trying to show off their kids, right? Tell them what you won. What place did you win in your gymnastics competition? I won first place. So see, the parent doesn't say it themselves. The parent could say, oh, Jimmy won first place, but the parents want the kid to say it, right? So they would say, Jimmy, tell them blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Tell them. They don't say talk about, okay? So you would not say, Jimmy, talk about your, you could say that, but it's kind of rare. That's what I'm telling you guys. It's not common at all. It's much more common to say, tell me, and that's polite. That's not rude. Now, you don't want to dig into someone's privacy. You know, tell me the PIN code for your bank account. Tell me. You know, that's obviously a private thing. That's confidential. Confidential means private. Okay. So obviously that would be rude, right? If you ask someone that kind of question. But if you're asking someone, like, for example, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your childhood. What was it like? That's not rude, that's polite. You're asking someone, I mean, it shows that you're interested in someone's life, right? Tell me about your plans. Tell me about your dreams. What are your dreams in life? You should let me know your dreams in life down there in the comments. Tell me about your dreams, guys. My dream is to escape this freezing cold weather. Man. Hopefully this can be my last winter in Canada. I'm sick of Canadian winters, guys. If you're sick of them too, then you can say, tell me about it, Mark. Tell me about it. That means you agree with me. Okay. So like I said, we never use these words talk about in, like, you don't start the sentence in that way because it's rude. It's like a command. It's like saying, make me some lunch. If I tell you, make me lunch, that's kind of a command. That's rude. It'd be more polite to say, could you make me some lunch? Right? So, yeah, so like I said, on exams, English exams, or, I don't know what other exams, or you have to talk. It's usually a language exam, right? And then you have to talk. They're telling you you have to talk. So then you have to talk. But in most cases, that's not normal English, and it means, in normal English, it means this emphasizing type of thing. Hey, now it's snowing, guys. There's no clouds up there. How is it snowing? Look at that. There's like tiny little cloud, but can you see? I don't know if you can see in my camera, but it's, yeah, it is starting to snow. Talk about weird. It's snowing, but there's no clouds. There's one little cloud, but there's like blue sky up there. It's snowing even though there's blue sky above me. Talk about weird. Right? So guys, there you have it. Try to make a sentence with this down in the comments. You know, like I said, it can be for good or bad things. Whatever you want. And it's informal. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. It's an informal way of speaking. You know, talk about chilly. But informal is normal. Right? Like if I were going on a walk with some high level person, like let's say I was walking with I don't know, the leader of the world. Who's the leader of the world right now? Probably not Joe Biden, but let's say I'm going on a walk with Joe Biden. I would say, talk about chilly out here, eh? I would use that. I would say that. Okay, so informal language is used even in situations that, you know, might be perceived as more formal. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an informal guy, but you know, just normal English is informal. Okay, so look at this ice here, right? Let's say the ice is slippery. You can feel your feet kind of slipping on the ice. You could say, talk about slippery. Wow, talk about slippery. Or if you're driving your car and the roads are slippery, you can say, wow, talk about slick roads. Talk about slick roads. Slick means slippery. Okay. So I've given a whole bunch of examples here, guys. I think that's good enough. I think that's you have enough examples. So try to make your own sentence and try to use this in real life when you're speaking English. Try to just, now another thing I would mention is you don't need, this doesn't need to be a sentence, okay? You don't need to make this into a real sentence. Like, we don't use it this way. Don't try to think about what's the verb, what's the subject, adjective. Just forget about that. Usually we say talk about, and then it's one or two words after that. It's not a full sentence, okay? So like I said, talk about chili, talk about delicious, talk about boring, talk about bad timing, eh? So all these examples, it's not like a sentence. It's just, it's like you're just saying something quick, right? It's like an exclamation, kind of like, whoa, wow, cool. You know, those aren't sentences. Those are just like words. There's the dogs again. I'm back in dog paradise, guys. We went around the canal. It's cold, guys, out here. It's a bit, my nose is getting a bit chilly. A good thing I wore my gloves. Like I said, it's about minus 10 degrees out here. So guys, remember, this is not a sentence. You're just making like an exclamation. Talk about a nice day, eh? Talk about a nice day. Look at this day. Talk about nice homes here. Big houses. Talk about a nice tree. Look at this. I just help that tree shed its snow off one of the branches. So guys, a lot of examples for you. So try to make a sentence down in the comments. As always guys, I love you so much. Hope you're staying safe, healthy, and happy. Hope it's not cold in your country. Hope these dogs shut up. And hope you're staying warm. And oh, I thought wow, there's a lot of geese. Talk about geese galore. I couldn't quite hear. So many dogs out here, guys. I couldn't really hear where the geese were because these dogs are barking so much. Okay. So the dogs are saying goodbye to you in this video. Anyway, guys, stay safe and happy, and as always, I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.